Okay, yeah, whenever the room's ready.
We're on. I'm on.
I think she should give you a chair.
We have,
This is a chair. It's for the Wi-Fi in case the.
Is Jürgen is here?
Yeah.
This I don't use it. Is Jürgen?
Yes, no?
It's a beautiful thing to make a SIYUM. This Bereshis, Baltorn brings from the Tkun Zohar that Bereshis is Yorei Shabbos. That the word Bereshis is Yorei Shabbos. You have the Shin Bais up and the Yorei. So he says, teach us that the whole tachlis of the whole Bria was for Shabbos. The whole world was created for Shabbos. Everything, Shabbos is the tachlis habriya. And Shabbos brings Yerushalayim, Yireh. Shabbos is the tachlis. You know, we learned in Masechta Shabbos, that Abaya made, when they made a SIYUM, Yom Tov l'Rabbanan, made a Yom Tov. When you make a SIYUM, it's a Yom Tov. What's the big thing about a SIYUM? Yom Tov. You know, so you do it, the Shver bring down, the name of the Satan is Samach Mem Aleph Lamed. So it says, SIYUM masechte ein lasos. He doesn't want you to make a SIYUM. That's what people are makbid to make a SIYUM. Dafka in the 9 days. The Satan doesn't want a SIYUM. A SIYUM is showing that what brings you simcha. The biggest simcha is to learn Torah. There's no greater simcha than learning Torah. And there's no greater yontif than you finish something. You know, other people, ishlufi mahalalai. How do you see who the person is? What makes them happy? One person makes him happy, Baruch Hashem, I finished the masechte. Other person makes him say, I finished the deal. That's what makes him happy. The simcha of a person, if you're SIYUM, the biggest simcha is making a SIYUM. There's no greater simcha coming together, making a SIYUM, especially on Masechta Shabbos. Masechta Shabbos is like the Chofetz Chaim said, it's the flagship of Kol Yisrael. If you keep Shabbos, that shows that you're a Yid. Shabbos is the Gemara brings down, we learned this in Shabbos also, that anyone who's mispal and says Vaychulu is Nasa Shutav LaKadosh Baruch Hu. Becomes a Shutav to Rebbeinu Shalom. By saying Vaychulu, you become a Shutav. Why are you a Shutav to Rebbeinu Shalom? There's a story by Shloim Kuzvila. Maybe everyone who knows a little the history in Yerushalayim, it was one of the biggest tzaddikim. When Rommel was coming into Eretz Yisrael, and it was Friday afternoon, and the whole place was going crazy. They thought he's going to come to Yerushalayim. He almost was there, coming almost into Eretz Yisrael. And they took all the children, to the Kaisel, and they davened, screaming, davening. They came over to Shloim Kuzvila, and by the Suda, and he just finished Kiddush, and they said that they're coming around, they're coming in. He said, "Oi, why didn't you tell me before?" What's before? He said, so he explained to them, when you say Vaychulu, you become a Shutav. If you would have told me before, I'm a Shutav with Rebbeinu Shalom. If I'm a Shutav, the Shutav Kadesh, the Shutav, we're Shutvan. You have to, I'm a Shutav with you. I'm a Shutav, so you should have asked me before I said Vaychulu. Vaychulu, you become a Shutav with Rebbeinu Shalom. And explain later what's the big shutf. It's why you're shutf to the Rebbeinu Shalom. And say Vaychulu. That the tachlis abriya is to believe in the Rebbeinu Shalom. We came to this world for one purpose: to come to have a munah like the Rambam says, like the Ramban says. The tachlis is to scream out that we believe in the Rebbeinu Shalom. Keeping Shabbos is the biggest way of showing you believe in the Rebbeinu Shalom. There's a famous story of Shver was walking in New York, in a time when most stores were not closed on Shabbos, and he walked by one store that had a lock on the store on Shabbos. He ran over and kissed that lock. He kissed the lock. He said, "This lock brings the biggest kedusha Hashem." It's screaming that we are Klal Yisrael and we believe in the Rebbeinu Shalom. At that time, when most people didn't understand what kedusha Shabbos was. Shabbos was always the, when a woman stands and sins lecht and brings down in the kedusha of the Shabbos and she's being made that time. I believe in the Rebbeinu Shalom, and that's the biggest chidduch a mother brings in her children. The Tenenbaum mishpacha is making the SIYUM, the nishmas, the yortzeit, their mother Aleh Shalom. The years that the Shabbos she brought into the home, the kedusha Shabbos she brought into the home, the lechtigkeit from Shabbos, the freilichkeit from Shabbos. If you see children grow up, it's only when they see a parent really. Shabbos is a day that you're happy, not a day that's a dreary day. Adrab, but Shabbos is the most beautiful day of the week. You live a whole week for Shabbos. It says Tam Chacham, a whole week is bebechinas Shabbos. Shabbos is the highlight of a person's life. The Bishop Rebbe's going to Meyer, his whole life was Shabbos. When the Shabbos came, Shabbos was. This is this mother brings us into the home. Shabbos, you do everything in the home for Shabbos. Your whole week you think about Shabbos, and the Shabbos table, and this. And if you see children see that. There's no greater chidduch than Shabbos. When you work on Shabbos, that's the greatest chidduch that you can bring in a child. Child sees how important. Why is Shabbos so important? Why is Shabbos? Because Shabbos shows that we believe in the Munah and Rebbeinu Shalom. Shabbos believes that the tachlis of Bria was the Shabbos. And the other part of Shabbos is the bracha of Shabbos. Shabbos by Kaddish, Shabbos brings the bracha for everything. The SIYUM is also made by the Bokesboim mishpacha, his father, Meyer Tenembaum, who was Moise Nefesh, even in Siberia, for Shabbos. Wherever he was Moise Nefesh, people came after the war. Some people threw Shabbos away. They threw away. There's a famous story by the Kozmik Rebbe Zechayim Bracha. And then when the first week after the liberation, and they came Shabbos, in the planet where he was, and there's some people who didn't want to come. They were angry, they were upset. They saw their families being wiped out, and so he called everyone come. He made a big thing, and some people came without yarmulkes. They didn't want to. They just came to see what's happening. They didn't want to believe in anything. So it says, he started saying, we say the Rebbeinu Kol Olamim. We say after the Shalom Aleichem. So it says there, that what do? We tell the Rebbeinu Shalom that we went and at least we madlik the neiros, and so he says, Ich madlik ben 11 neiros. 11 lecht habe Chabeg gegeben für Rebbeinu Shalom. Chabeg gegeben 11 lecht für Rebbeinu Shalom. Aber Baruch Hashem, the Rebbeinu Shalom gemacht, dass ich kann leben, warten, halten Shabbos. And so people started crying there, and so people started tearing paper and putting on the head of the yarmulke, and they started, Shabbos is and these people who came after the war and were Moise Nefesh for Shabbos. The Moise Nefesh for Shabbos, they came to new country, Herschel and his wife and Reb Yosy, they came, and this, if you see children like they are, it's people who are Moise Nefesh. The main thing is Shabbos. Shabbos brings the biggest kedusha and the bracha, and Shabbos shows a person who understands what Shabbos is. There's no greater chinuch than Shabbos. The greater chinuch, when there's in Eretz Yisrael, there's just used to go around bringing people at the Kaisel. The biggest thing he said is he took a person to a home on Shabbos. That changed people's lives. You saw what Shabbos. People don't even understand what Shabbos is. You come to home, it's a different atmosphere. Like the Gemara brings down the tradition that the spice of Shabbos makes the Shabbos it's a whole different food. It's everything different. The same in Shabbos and Shabbos, learning Shabbos and keeping Shabbos Hashem mishpachas is the biggest chus for the neshamas. When you make a SIYUM, and SIYUM also shows there's a Rabbeinu Shalom. You show that there's no greater thing than Torah from the Rabbeinu Shalom. And Simon Shabbos means Erevin is still part of Shabbos. The Mishnah, right after Hilchos Shabbos, the Rambam brings Hilchos Erevin. So he says, really, Erevin is Shabbos. We're learning Erevin is still part of Shabbos. It's the Rabbanan of Shabbos. Shabbos is the Torah, the Raisa, and Erevin is the Rabbanan of Shabbos. The Ruach HaTzeres and all these things are. So we're learning now Shabbos and Erevin. It's all one thing, but the Baruch Hashem, that even the time that we were going through, the time of Cherem, the time of Nebuch, Daniel and all that gave Shurim, and Reb Yosy gave Shurim, and you give him Zoom, you give it anyway, and Baruch Hashem continued, and Baruch Hashem they learned Erevin, now learn Shabbos, learn Shabbos, they should continue, and just like Shabbos brought all the bracha of Shabbos should bring that, it should eradicate all the tzaros from Klal Yisrael, that came through this machla, and all the kind of tzaros that came through this machla. And when should have that Shabbos b'Shalom should bring Shalom in the whole world. There should be Zoucha, Mazel Tov to all those who learned and will continue in learning, and to show that Mehalal, the biggest Mehalal. And people would tell me they learned more in the Zooms in the morning, at night. You go Adrab, you can learn whenever you want. You can have the Shurim, you can listen to the Shurim again on the Zoom, and we should continue learning and continue keeping Shabbos and discuss Shabbos. Should be Zoucha to see that Shabbos will bring Yom Shekulei Shabbos, the Yom, the Mashiach will come Meyer Tenembaum, and all the tzaros will end, and we'll see the neshamas come back. These neshamas who left this world. Tenenbaum left this world as a young woman, and the children, Baruch Hashem, will see, and the Eichels of Moshe, Baruch Hashem will see the children and the grandchildren, the great-grandchildren, was what Kent Oif had been here in Canada, and we should to see the Gula B'Meir Mazel Tov, Mazel Tov.
Should we make the same now?
Huh?
Should we make the same? Make the same now?
Yes.
No.
Okay, wherever you want.
Shus the Choshen Meyer Shlita. My dear father, who I think is on Zoom, who participated with us in Shabbos, my dear Shver, all the Kol HaMesudim, all the Choshen Mesayim, and all those that joined with us for this, what should I say, Herculean task from Parshas Parah until Hayom. I think we'll all agree, besides the Chosh Rov who encourages this, it would be amiss not to mention Akiva Bolter, who it's just, I know he doesn't want me to mention this, but I cannot not mention how he turned such a b'diavad matziv into such a lechatchila matziv. I would not say it on my own. But Meyer I thought like that, but Meyer came over to me last night and said, you know what, Neil? I think we learned Shabbos better. And we did. We went slower. And I still remember that phone call. I was driving downtown, and Meyer starts telling me there's something. I didn't know what Zoom was. I didn't know what he was talking about. It sounded like a dream. And everything looked bleak. We're driving back from my Shog's Bar Mitzvah Yossi. There was no entry to TheAgudah. And you set up a system that you turned the b'diavad into a tremendous lechatchila. And I heard the Rov say many times in the Erev Shabbos that with the envy of many shuls, and I live down south, And I could tell you, Dvorim Kaviosen, Mamish Dvorim Kaviosen, as TheAgudah and the Ichud of the Tishul, Akiva, Schori Harbe Moed, they may make those again, Shkoyach. I'm not going to be Meyer, just a quick oral and a hergish that I had on the masechte. Everyone knows the Orach Lener talks about that when Rosh Hashanah falls out on Shabbos, like it did this year, like it did last year. Those are the best years for Klal Yisrael. Rahman Tzlani says also the most tragic years for Klal Yisrael. Obviously, Chazal saw something in Shabbos that they can make a gzeira not to blow shofar, which is the sanegar for Klal Yisrael. They could be mevatel b'sheva al tasa, the blowing of the shofar. How did Chazal to take away from Klal Yisrael the tkiyah shofar? How are they so certain that Shabbos could protect? And not only that, the Eibush L'Hofen that this year should prove to be one of them, but it could be from the best years that Klal Yisrael ever experienced. The Gemara in Shabbos Daf Yud Amud Bais says, "Hanoisim aton l'chaver tzarech l'hidiyoi, ki ani Hashem mikadishchem." Going on Shabbos, because Baruch Hu told Klal Yisrael about the maton of Shabbos. Correct the Gemara, but it's a milsa avida de gluya. Everyone will know about Shabbos, that Hashem gave Shabbos in the Aseret HaDibros. What's the extra idea that you have to say? The Gemara says that it was leah vilda de gluya, the matan schor le ovid de gluya. The matan schar of Shabbos is not something that we would know, and that HaKadosh Baruch Hu was megala to Moshe Rabbeinu hu ediyim al yidei Moshe bal peh maskora. Part of me was, we know Schar Mitzvah B'Hayal Maleka. We know that any schar that the Nevi'im, when it's not called Chayo El Mazeh, is not Shovet of 1 hour in Chayo El Mabo. So what schar are we talking about here? What's Velcha Ishom the schar lo osid? Perhaps you could say, based on the Gemara on Kuf Nun, we had a period of Benimah and he thought about it. It's mutter. The Abidover is also, but Machshav is mutter. He thought about the close it of Veloy Godro, Vinasal Nes, but also by Slav, a tree that gives tremendous amount of periods at all seasons. He had full parnosa because he said, I thought about it on Shabbos, I'm not going to build a fence, even though it was mutter. What's this? Perhaps the Teretz says, Kihimakara Brocha. Is given to Moshe Rabbeinu matana toiv v'genuza yeshli. Shabbos is the makor and the source of bracha in this world. It's part of the bria. It's not schar mitzvah. Shabbos is an automatic spring. It's an automatic well of bracha for the entire week from Klal Yisrael. Chazal knew that if the Zehiris of Shabbos of Shema Yarvenu Dalet Amis and the Zehiris of keeping the not to be mavrim b'oiva hoitzah on Shabbos, that extra zehirus, it's doch the mikara brocha, it's brocha alein on this world. That was the matana toiva, and perhaps that's what HaKadosh Baruch Hu's megal to Moshe Rabbeinu. It's way above schar mitzvah b'hayam moleka. Everybody said, you know, that part of this, not part of the learning, the entire learning is like nishmas. Also, my dear Shver that was taken away from us so suddenly. I cannot say how much, but I remember once either us or a different sibling was leaving on Friday morning, the shock that my mother-in-law had Friday travel. It was like almost beyond her hasoga. And whether that extra zehirus and that, or the zehirus, like I know Gary mentioned once, maybe to someone to refrain from reading Divrei Choil, or perhaps a Vater by the Suda, any drop that a person is moisef, kihi mekor brocha, it's no schar mitzvah, doesn't take away from the Olam HaEmes. That extra that you put in gets paid back. I'm going to end with something I heard from an elder Yid who was here for medical treatment, and he came to us teach for Shabbos, and his father was a Talmud of the Chofetz Chaim. And we were singing his mirrors, and he told me his father heard from the Chofetz Chaim, Kol Mekadesh Shvi Koroiloi. Someone who's Mekadesh Shabbos Koroiloi, Kol Shemesh Shabbos Kados Mechaloloi. What are the two things? One, he's Mekadesh Shabbos Koroiloi. The second one, he's a Shemesh Shabbos, he's not a Mechal Shabbos. Schoroi Harbe Me'oid Al Pi Fa'oloi. And says, father from the Chofetz Chaim, each one is different. is Kol Shem B'Shabbos Kados Mechaloloi, but the more you put in, the more Karoi is Alpi Poloi. Everyone will get according to what he puts in. What you give, Mekar Brocha, that's what you get back. I used to also in that talk in this course that all of us together, I was so inspired from this limud, the idea that we should continue in the morning. Everyone is going for almost 2 months, or I don't know how long even, but that we were mamshich on Zoom with a beautiful oilom that we're committed to finish this masechte. Should be a schus for everyone, for the kehillah, and for everyone in Mirz Hashem, that you should have taka shnas bracha and find a chama, and we should only hear B'suras Tov going forward. End of the masechte. Rabbi say, don't be nervous. We did the hard part this morning, so it's really just the last. Ula ikla berish gelusa chazil rabba b'avuna de Yosef b'avna de Meyer. He was sitting in a pool of water. I guess, I don't know. I guess it was cold water. There's no problem with chitza on Shabbos. You work that out. But he was measuring. He was measuring the keli. You're allowed to measure a mikvah. You're allowed to measure for a mitzvah. The lav mitzvah miyama. Who says you can measure something that's not a mitzvah? So Rashi I'm playing with the measuring tape. I'm measuring this. I have no kavana. There is no difference to me if I measure it or if I don't measure it. And therefore, misasik, that's not medida. Even though he's doing it, it's misasik bi'alma, you're not able to kill Shabbos. Hadrin loch mishechshech u'shliko masechte Shabbos. Hadrin aloch masechte Shabbos v'hadrin chalon. Daita b'loch masechte Shabbos v'daita chalon. L'nishte v'noch masechte Shabbos v'shkim no le'ba'alma den le'ba'alma dosei. Hadrin aloch masechte Shabbos v'hadrin chalon. Daita chalon. Daita aloch masechte Shabbos v'daita chalon. L'nishte v'noch masechte Shabbos v'shkim no le'ba'alma den le'ba'alma dosei. I don't know if it's such Shabbos, I don't know if it's such Shabbos, I don't know. When this team not such Shabbos, you know, we bound the thing, we bound the door. So you're saying it's not, I didn't know, saying state to us, we not say the bell, Mazet. The same one, my book, name by Pop, by Pop, and after my Pop, by Pop, I've been worried by Pop, by Pop, Shorka, by Pop, I give my Pop, door by Pop. I have not, you know, when was Divis, Roscoe, the Finu, with Fifes, I'm Kobeso, the Nicola, and after I'm Kobeso. Lona Yedation Melchov, Londa Sarsek, Merve Tichak Main, Seki Loyal, he leave something, he leave something who careful amount, they bush loyal, Meshkat Pikudecho, Kivam Kisoni, Borakaton, the Noilam Dani, who careful, Amen, Celebrate, Noy, the Manach, Fabinella, hey, no, they'll have a sense, some cooking, Meshri, some cooking, Meshri, Mashkim, Unmashkim, the reserve, tell one of my mail, one of my mail, McCallum Sock, my mail, McCallum Sock, on the road to them, road to on the road to Chayil Mabba, we went to their shop, Shnema, Batil, Interdin, their shop, Sanch, Double Member, Epsi, Maybe, Yeftak, your time, Ilfone, or Adino, Yellow, Haki, Shame, Shezaton, the same as Circus Shabbos, Kain doesn't last for the Circus, Farmacher, Lysime, Lilmoy, Lilame, Lishmore, Villas, so kind of could be some turn, Sabiabos, Platanoyim, Vamaroyim, Sabidakon, and Yamiglon, Luzareno. So some shatter me pino, me pizareno, bizarreno, and this is Kain Bono, Bisalecho, Tanko, Isop, Bishako, Tishmarla, Kavaki, he says, Kivi Yibu Yamecho, Yosifu, Hoshnais Chaim, Erichovino, Bismelo, Shebukovoid, Adino Islam Litain, Adino Berek, Samway Basholoi.
All three of you say you should also say it.
I should tell
It's not a Kaddish, it's a Kaddish. You should say it together with them. It's a chaylik of the scene. It wasn't made a scene. It's part of a scene. It's not a...
Hey. Hey, Mazel Tov. Mazel Tov Simen. It is with great simcha that I am able to co-sponsor the SIYUM with Meyer Tenembaum for his father, Moshe ben Rov Shlita, Mordechai, and mother and father-in-law, Nishmas Dvora Bas Yirmiהו Levi, and Rov Shlita Feyvel ben Meyer Zikronam Lebracha. I can't be certain, but there must be a connection why my mother and father-in-law have the same year sites 18 years apart. The chances of this occurring are about 3 in 1,000, I think. My wife and I still marvel why this is so, as we light the candles together on the eve of Chof Ches Tishrei for the last 31 years. Yet they were two opposite personalities, with two different histories and upbringing. My father-in-law's life was cut relatively short at 61 years of age. However, he was able to accomplish quite a bit during his time in this world. He was a very public and personable person, and would be able to have a conversation with people from all stripes and be comfortable with it and make them feel comfortable. He was a public orator and was not scared to speak publicly in universities, defending Klal Yisrael and Eretz Yisrael. As Rabbi of Kitchener, he was extremely busy as the rabbi of the city. He only had time to learn late into the night, as my kids can testify that whenever they woke up in the middle of the night, they would go visit him in his study. He had great seichel and wisdom. It was very difficult to win a disagreement with him. One of my favorite expressions he used to say when he disagreed with you is that you're entitled to your opinion, even if it's wrong. Some people felt that he wasn't able to fulfill his potential in Kitchener, and he could have done much greater things if he was in a city like Toronto or New York, even though he did start TheAgudah here, which was a huge accomplishment. But we will really never know. However, he did accomplish great things in Kitchener by keeping his congregation strong and proud Jews, and influenced many to become Bali Tshuva, one of whom that we know as a world-famous cardiologist. My mother, on the other hand, was a quiet woman who avoided being in the limelight. After going through the horrors of the war, she finally was able to start enjoying a good life, but not for too long. I don't have many recollections of my mother while I was growing up, but a month before she passed away, there was one incident that still resonates with me today, especially since I now have a better understanding of what it's like being able to see nachas from your own family. It was a month before my bar mitzvah, and I was putting on tefillin, and I davened at home that day. I wasn't yet bar mitzvah. She was sitting in the backyard in the late stages of her illness, and I can imagine how dejected she must have felt at the time. But I showed her that I was wearing tefillin, and she brightened up immediately, commenting on the tefillin. Unfortunately, that was probably one of the last times she would be able to enjoy the nachas of her family. Therefore, it gives me great satisfaction and joy to be able to participate in the SIYUM with the other Messiahim. Even if the Niftarim can benefit from the physical nachas in this world, I know that we are able to provide their neshamas with great zachusim and benefit. At least in this way, my parents can continue to share nachas from their children. This is why I have so much a karsatov to our Maggid Shir of Daniel Finkel for suggesting the SIYUM in an expanded form. Due to the upheaval of Corona and adjusted schedules, I didn't think I would be able to learn a masechte from my parents' yard sites as done in previous years. I don't believe anything is a coincidence. And when we fell behind in Shabbos, was suggested by one of the people in the group to start Erevin, and we will continue Shabbos as time allowed. I asked Daniel if he thinks we can make a SIYUM at the time of the yard sites, thinking that if so, okay, we would have finished it, and we would have had the tikkun in the morning. However, I believe it gave him such a chiyus, which is extremely infectious, and he got me excited about it, that we should make a suda and bring a huge simcha to the shul. So thank you, Daniel, for infusing into us the Slavis to learn the daf every day. It would be a stretch to say that certain minute details of erevin and measurements are exciting, but thank you for making it so enjoyable. Anyway, I hope that erevin we will all be able to have a real SIYUM for the whole shul.
Good, beautiful. Yossi, say something. All right, right after. It's good. It's gonna be. It's right. Be good. Right.
Forest thinker is way too much. So realize you just sit down, but you know once you get up, you become chicken. And you think that what you have to say is important. So I just want to say thank you. I want to express my deepest appreciation to your Rov. When we started Shabbos, things were looking very bleak. We didn't know how we were going to learn properly. We were locked in. And all of a sudden, we had an Omer of Akiva Ashreichem Yisrael. Rabbi Akiva told us it's good. It's going to be very good. And who would have thought that we would be able to not only survive learning, but we didn't survive learning. The learning made us survive. Over these past 6 months, I got a new appreciation for the pasuk. Lulei seroscha shashuai, ozo vadati ba'oni. I think almost anyone in this room could say, without the shiurim that we had, we would have went mad. You read it in the newspaper and you hear on the news that the goyim, how many times can you watch Netflix? They came in sugar there. But we were lucky, as a Klal Yisrael, we had the Torah and it literally was our lifeline. So it's so appropriate that we're finishing off Shabbos at Parshas Bereshis. And the Rebbe Yosy created the person on the 6th day. The Rebbe Yosy said, "Vayar elikim es kol asher oso v'hinei toiv ma'oid." When you're learning a Gemara, when you're learning a masechte, it's hard. Every day's a struggle, and you don't really appreciate so much what you're doing. But the idea to make a SIYUM like this, where we can look back and see, wow, look at what we accomplished. It's mamish toiv ma'oid. And to look down in the process, we have to thank the Tenenbaum and the Bokesboim family, because that's toiv. Tenenbaum and Bokesboim. Being a toiv ma'oid. This SIYUM is our true toiv ma'oid SIYUM. And I want to focus on the toiv, and I want to focus on the ma'oid. Ma'oid, and this is a word that I heard from Shmuel Hauer by Rav Moshe Reich from Zavai. He said over from Rav Moshe from my mind doesn't work. So who made up to that thing? Ramesh. Instead of Ramesh, that the word ma'oid are also the same letters that spell the word other. And he asked, there's nothing in the world that cannot be measured. Today we could measure the distance to Mars. We can measure anything we can measure. The only thing that can't be measured is the koiches of a person, what a person could achieve, and a person puts his mind to. And when we look at our Medrash and we see what we accomplished as a group, we finished Masechet Shabbos with that toiv ma'oid SIYUM. What greater thanks could we possibly have to give to the Rebbe Yosy? And what I say is, to new COVID, the Torah. If you have COVID, give it over to the Torah. And with that, we have the biggest slope. So I just want to thank everybody for being there. When I come tonight, Daniel Hashir, he's coming in with a beautiful painted masterpiece, and he's giving it over. I remember when we were children, we used to have paint by them. I come in with the canvas that has the outline. And then in my Shir Baruch Hashem, we have a bookie in Tanakh, and then a portion who can help add some color. Then we have our fact checkers who know how to do research online to find things to help us understand the Gemara better. Then we have our attorneys who make sure everything's straight and black. And then we have our entrepreneurs who think out of the box and ask for creative passions. And when we're all done, finally we have a beautiful, beautiful picture. So we both end up with a beautiful picture. It's about to start with one, but I end with one. And because of that, I want to thank everybody who helped me understand the Gemaras. I had too many people in this marriage that I can always ask. I want to thank each one personally without mentioning any names. And I want to daven that we should be Zocha together to finish Erevin, to finish many, many maseches, and soon to finish Shas.
Yes, record the whole thing. Yeah. No. It's on a handheld, so it's yeah. I wanted to say hello to his father, right? Is your father on? Where is he? Yeah, father's here. 1 second. Where is he? He's here. He was here.
8:30.
He was here. I don't know if he's still there. Yes, to you.
What's written on your mouth?
Muzzle. He's not. He was here before. I saw he was on when
Muzzle top?
Muzzle. Shver. We don't know. Okay, Reb Avram, you want to see more?
No, thank you very much.
Come on, it's a hockey net.
Shikoyach.
I was waiting because my children would have asked that question. I know. Okay, Reb Avram, we're going to keep it here. Do you want to see the food? I'll take you into the kitchen, okay?
No,
You show them the food. Can you here? Sure, thank you. Sure. Oh my goodness. Sure, thank you. Like I told you, man, it's really not necessary. Here's the meal. Above room, here's the box lunch.
Well, we had spaghetti for
There's something in here. There's the dinners in here. It's unreal. That's probably a soup, and there's I think a pastrami, and I don't know what's on the menu. Yeah.
Thank you for all your help. I'm signing off. Akiva.
Okay, we're going to close the broadcast.
Okay,
It'll be available. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in. It'll be available if you want to watch it again or hear any of the speeches again. I hope they were okay. You're able to hear? Above Rome, you're able to hear?
Yes, it was good. Thank you.
My pleasure. Thank you for tuning in.